The most dangerous moment in Marcus Webb's life was not when he lost his job, not when his wife left, and not when the bank called about his house. It was at 4:59 a.m. on a cold Tuesday in February, in a small apartment in Columbus, Ohio, when his alarm went off, and he reached out to turn it off. Because that one small decision, to sleep 5 more minutes, had already stolen 10 years from him. He just didn't know it yet.
Marcus was 34 years old. He was not a bad man. He was not lazy. He was not stupid. He had a business degree from Ohio State, a decent smile, and hands that could fix almost anything. But somewhere between 25 and 34, life had become something that happened to him, not something he was building. He woke up every morning at 7:15 a.m. He was always late. He always rushed. He ate breakfast in his car. He arrived at his sales job with coffee stains on his shirt and apologies on his lips. His boss, a small woman named Diane who wore red glasses, had stopped looking surprised. That was worse than the disappointment. She had simply accepted that Marcus would always be almost there. Almost there is not a destination, his father used to say. It is just a polite way of saying nowhere. His father, James Webb, had been a factory worker in Detroit for 30 years. He woke up every single day at 4:45 a.m. Not because the factory required it, because he required it. The letter came on a Thursday. White envelope, blue logo. Marcus did not open it immediately. He put it on the kitchen table and cooked pasta and watched television and told himself it was probably nothing. At 11 p.m., he opened it. It was not nothing. The company was downsizing. His position was eliminated. He had 4 weeks of severance and a phone number for an HR consultant he would never call. He sat at the kitchen table for a long time. The pasta was still on the stove. The television was still on. Outside, Columbus was cold and dark and completely indifferent to what had just happened to Marcus Webb. He called his father. "Dad," he said, "I've lost my job." There was silence. Not the uncomfortable silence of bad news. The steady, warm silence of a man who is thinking. "Come to Detroit this weekend," his father said. "I'll make breakfast." "Dad, it's a 4-hour drive." "Yes," said James Webb. "So leave early." Marcus arrived at his father's house on Saturday morning. He had driven through the night because he could not sleep. The house was dark when he pulled into the driveway. He was surprised. His father was always up before anyone. Then he saw it, a thin yellow light under the kitchen door. He went inside. His father was at the kitchen table. He was 62 years old, thick-shouldered, with the careful hands of a man who had worked with machines his whole life. He had a cup of coffee, a yellow legal pad, and a small lamp. The rest of the house was completely dark and quiet. It was 4:53 a.m.
"You're already up?" Marcus said. "I'm always up," his father said. "Sit down." Marcus sat. His father poured him coffee. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, there was absolutely no sound. No cars, no voices, nothing. The whole world was still asleep,
It was the quietest place Marcus had been in years. "This hour," his father said, wrapping both hands around his mug, "belongs to nobody but you." His father looked at him for a long moment. Then he said something Marcus would hear for the rest of his life. "Do you know why I always woke up at 5? Marcus shook his head. "Because at 5 a.m., the world has not started asking things from you yet. Your boss has not called. The bills have not arrived. Your phone is still quiet. The traffic does not exist. At 5 a.m., you are free. Completely free. And free people can build things." He pushed the yellow legal pad across the table. Marcus looked at it.
It was full of handwriting. His father's careful, slow handwriting. The handwriting of a man who had taught himself to write better after 40. It was a business plan for a small woodworking shop. Materials, costs, revenue, suppliers, names of potential customers. It was 4 pages, front and back, and it was extraordinary in its detail. "When did you write this?" Marcus asked. "Mornings," his father said. "A little every morning, for 2 years." Marcus stared at him. "2 years? I was not in a hurry," his father said quietly. "I knew I had every morning, 40 minutes every day, before the world woke up. That is more than 200 hours a year, Marcus. 200 hours of pure, uninterrupted thinking." He smiled. Not the smile of a man who was proud of himself, but the smile of a man who had discovered a very simple, very important thing. The 5 a.m. hour is the only hour in the day that is completely yours. Every other hour, someone wants it. Your employer, your family, your phone, your fears. But 5 a.m.? Nobody comes for 5 a.m. Marcus drove back to Columbus on Sunday. He sat in the parking lot of his apartment for 15 minutes before going inside. He looked at the building. 12 floors of other people's lives, other people's routines, other people's small defeats and quiet hopes. He set his alarm for 5 a.m. Monday morning, it went off. He turned it off. He looked at the ceiling. It was cold. It was dark. Every cell in his body wanted to stay in the warm, soft bed where nothing was required of him. He got up. He made coffee. He sat at his kitchen table with a notepad and a pen. For the first 10 minutes, he wrote nothing. He just sat. He listened to the silence. And it was, he was surprised to discover, not an empty silence. It was a full silence. The silence of a room that was entirely, completely his. He wrote one sentence. What do I actually want? He stared at it. Then he wrote 3 words beneath it. To build something. That was all. 40 minutes. 1 cup of coffee. 3 words. But he had been awake. He had been present. And for the first time in a very long time, he had been honest. He did not change overnight. This is not that kind of story. Week 2, he missed 2 mornings. He felt terrible. Week 3, he missed 1. Week 4, he did not miss any. By week 6, he was waking up at 4:50, 10 minutes before the alarm, because something in him was eager. Not for productivity, not to check things off a list, but because the quiet kitchen, the dark window, the warm coffee, and the open notebook had become the
best part of his day. He was figuring out who he was. He realized he had always wanted to work with people in trouble, people who had lost jobs, who felt invisible, who needed someone to believe in them. He had felt this for years, but the feeling had been buried under the noise of a busy, reactive, always behind life. In the silence of 5 a.m., it surfaced like something waiting to be found. He started studying online, career coaching certifications. He did it at 5 a.m., before the world started calling. He studied for 7 months. He passed. He got his first client, a woman named Carol who had been unemployed for 2 years and had stopped believing anyone would hire someone her age. Marcus helped Carol update her resume, practice her interviews, and think differently about her own worth. 4 weeks later, Carol called him, crying, to say she had gotten a job offer, 20% more than her old salary.
Marcus put down the phone and sat very still. His hands were shaking, just a little, not from fear, from something else entirely. 18 months after that first 5 a.m. morning at his kitchen table in Columbus, Marcus Webb had 12 coaching clients, a small website, and enough income to cover his rent. It was not a great income, but it was his income. Every dollar of it had come from something he had built in the quiet hours before the world woke up. He called his father on a Sunday morning. It was 5:10 a.m. "You're up," his father said, and Marcus could hear the smile. "I'm always up," Marcus said. His father laughed, a real laugh, low and warm, the laugh of a man who has just heard exactly what he was hoping to hear. They talked for 40 minutes about the woodworking shop, which his father had finally opened in a small garage in Detroit, about Marcus's clients, about how strange and good it was to build something slowly, carefully, in the quiet hours when nobody is watching. Before they hung up, his father said one more thing. "You know what your grandfather used to say, Marcus?" He said, "Show me a man's morning, and I will show you his life." Marcus wrote it down. He still has that piece of paper. It is taped above his desk. The world will ask everything from you. Your job, your family, your fears, your phone. They will all come for your time, your energy, your attention. They will come every single day. But they will not come at 5 a.m. That hour, quiet, cold, still, and completely free, is the 1 hour in the day that belongs only to you. What you do with it will determine, more than anything else, the shape of your life.